Hi friends. If you're stressed out, raise your hand. A lot of the time, right? Especially in the pandemic, it's a stressful time. And so that's what made me take this stress mastery class that the Katie Kimball, who does the cooking class that I took, she teaches a stress mastery class, and I took this mini course. So I want to talk to you about that and some of the things that I learned from there. And then simple ways to recharge. Let's talk about practical ways that we can recharge, because recharging ourselves or filling our buckets or whatever you want to call it throughout the day is the big takeaway I got from this class. And so how do we do that? So let me talk about the class first, then towards the end we'll talk about what are some of the tools that I use or some of the recharging methods that I actually use and that I want to invite you to do with me. Perhaps I'll end with a challenge because I do need some accountability also. I would love that. But I would also love to hear what you do and what fills your bucket and some of the things I might want to try and I never thought about it. So I would love to hear from you. Please comment with what fills your bucket and what you do throughout the day. And these could be super short things to longer things. So we'll talk about all those things towards the end, but first, let me talk about the class. It's her demo stress mastery class, or it was a mini class. I happened to find out all these like free things that she's offering, right? And I think it was because of the pandemic, she wanted to offer this as help to especially busy, stressed out moms, which I resonated with. So there were a few things that stuck out to me in this class. One of them, that it was called stress mastery. I was like, what the heck is stress mastery? I just try to manage my stress or try to not blow up out of my stress, which I still do, don't worry, you're not alone, or at least I hope I'm not alone. But it really was a way to know where your stress points are and how you can decrease those stresses so that it's not just reactive to things that happen, but knowing what's coming up, knowing how you react to things, and trying to proactively do something about it. And another thing that stood out to me was this very simple definition that she had. Stress is when your demand outweighs your capacity, right? It seems super simple, but I guess I just never thought about it in that way. Maybe you all have, and you're far more advanced than I am, but that just helped me really understand how I need to look at things that I have on my plate. Because sometimes you can cut that demand down, but a lot of times we can't, right? Especially during the pandemic, we can't not parent, we can't not help the kids with school, we can't not cook. Well, I guess you can eat, order out or things like that, but those are part of the capacity thing, right? So there are demands that don't go away. People need to eat, people need to go to school, we need to work, we need to do things to help us survive and to get through the school and the work and all the stuff that we need to do, the responsibilities that we have. Now the other side then is the capacity. How much capacity do we have? And the thing that she was talking about is the way that we build up our capacity is to recharge ourselves. So when we are depleted, when we are just physically and mentally exhausted, we just don't want to do that one other thing, right? We probably could, but we just don't want to. So we want to recharge throughout the day. So one of the things she said, do something in the morning, do something in the evening, and do a few things during the day. So during the day, it's hard to find long stretches of time, right? I would love to go on a walk for an hour or do yoga for an hour or whatever, for long periods of time, but we don't have that. And so what are some of those like 30-second things, 1-minute things that we can do that would help us? And it's not an escape. Like, it's not going on social media and just scrolling through and escaping, right? Just kind of thinking about other things. But does that actually fill our bucket? Does that bring you joy? If it does, and if it makes you in a better mood, if it makes you feel like you can do more things afterwards, then great, go do that. I think she mentioned things like humor, right? Where if it makes you able to do more things afterwards because you watched one super funny video that made you laugh, then great, go do that. that fills your bucket and increases your capacity. But if that doesn't, then stay off the whole social media or the news or things like that. There are a lot of different things that she talked about, a lot of just like brain science, and the reason why we do some of the things we do, which is really, really interesting to me. So if any of that stuff interests you, if that all totally bores you, then don't check it out. It's not for you. But if any of that sounded interesting to you, I'll put that link below too. If you check it out and then it's not for you, just don't buy it. But if it seems to work, then, right? Practical. We need practical, tangible things, right? So I want to tell you what some of the things I brainstormed for myself, and I'm just starting out trying this stuff, so it's kind of an iterative process, right? If it works, great. If it doesn't, I need to figure out things that are even more refreshing for me. But to start in the morning, because she says take time in the morning, and I'll save the hardest challenge for last, so stick with me for the challenge. But one of them is I like to exercise. Before, I used to go Zumba in the mornings before work or something, once or twice a week, and Jeremy would take the kids in, things like that. We would work out a schedule so that I could actually go get that exercise. And I don't get to do that anymore, obviously, but I did buy an indoor bike because I wanted to do that inside when we couldn't go exercise outside. Or I do yoga in the morning, just like a 10-minute, 15-minute short yoga session. If I can wake up before the kids, great. So that's something that helps me. Or just stretch, some sort of exercise to get my body going, and stretching even after the biking is really nice for me to just start out because my back's kind of tense and all that when I wake up. So exercise is my first thing that I do to help myself. The second thing, which is also super easy, and I guess I say super easy, but I do live in California where the temperature is really nice, so I like to go outside, even if it's just into the backyard for a little bit of fresh air, feel the sun on my face. It's been a little bit cold lately. Of course, cold for Californians, it's like 60 degrees, right? I'm a wuss, but anyway, just going outside, feeling the sun, seeing the sun, especially since we're cooped up in the house most of the time these days. Nature is fantastic. Even taking a quick walk, it'll take like 5 minutes around the block. That's really nice. The third thing, this is like a 30-second thing for me, but this is related to triggers for me. A huge one is kids whining or crying about things that they can do for themselves. Not like the emergency, I really need help because I'm hurt things, but like, oh, I can't get this jar open, or I'm not getting my food fast enough, things like that. That just sets me off, and I don't want to yell, right? So I've been either like, if I'm in a different room, I've laid down on the floor, like literally laid down on the floor and just taken deep breaths for even 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And then I get up and I'm a little more empathetic. Whereas before I took those few seconds to go downstairs or to go help them, I would yell. I would be like, what is going on? Like, why are you crying about not being able to open a jar, right? Things that were not very nice, and I wouldn't like that said to me. But I was doing something else, I was being bothered, and it was crying and whining, not in a kind, asking way, right? So just taking that extra time to take deep breaths, because breaths are a huge part that really calms you. There's a reason why people love yoga and meditation, right? So that's a quick one for me, where I feel triggered and I need to know that and take that time. The fourth one is at night, I want to take some time to read, whatever that may be. I haven't had a chance to get into my books lately, so I want to be more intentional about doing a little more reading that is off my screen. I want to be off the screens. I'm on my screens for work all day, and so I do want to stay off the screens a little bit more, especially when I'm now making videos too, so I feel like I'm on screens all the time for my first and second job, as we joke around here. But I would like to do a little more reading, journaling, or something that is off the screens before I go to bed, because I know there's scientific studies about screens right before bed as well and interfering with your sleep, and sleep is huge. So that is the fourth thing that I do, which brings me to the huge challenge. I know that's number 5, I guess. Staying off the phone for the first hour is what Katie recommended, but just not touching it when I first wake up, which is like, whoa for me, right? That's the first thing I look at usually when I wake up. I'm checking my mail, I'm checking my calendar to see, okay, what are my meetings today? Who do I need to respond to, because I work with people in different geographies, all of that. And then if I read the news, that's just depressing all the time. And so it was actually really hard, but it's also freeing. It's kind of like when I go traveling and I don't want to pay for that international plan, and so I leave my phone only on Wi-Fi mode, so I can only use Wi-Fi when I'm at a hotel or a place that has Wi-Fi. It kind of feels like that, where I just cut myself off, right? And once I have my breakfast and my celery juice and my special time with my kids, then I pick it up, versus it's the first thing I see. I'm already stressed out from the very beginning. Anyway, that's one big thing that I took away, is to fill my own bucket and to not start my day in a bad way by looking at all these things that stress me out. So it was helpful to me to get a little more insight into this stress thing, and that it's actually good for you. Stress is not a bad thing itself, but when it's all the time and it just doesn't stop, that's not good. It's not good for our health. So let's kick it, or figure out how to master it, as they say. So that's it. I hope that was helpful for you. See you next time.